All right, so you've got an exam on Agile software development coming up. You are in exactly the right place. In this explainer, we're going to cut right through all the noise and focus on what you actually need to know. We'll cover the core philosophies, the specific frameworks, and the practices that are almost guaranteed to be on your test. So here's our game plan. We're going to start with the foundational Agile philosophy, the big ideas. Then we'll get into the real nitty-gritty of two major frameworks you'll definitely be tested on, Scrum and Extreme Programming. And we'll wrap it all up by connecting it to the core principles of Lean. Let's jump right in. Okay, let's dive right in. Section 1, the Agile philosophy. Now, the first thing you have to get straight in your head, and trust me, this is a huge concept for any exam. Agile isn't just some single method you can download and install. It's really a fundamental shift in how you think about building things. Think of Agile like a big umbrella. It's a philosophy that covers a whole family of different methods. But what they all have in common are two big goals. First, to constantly, and I mean constantly, check in and make sure you're building what the customer actually needs. And second, to be able to react and adapt to change super quickly, instead of fighting against it. Now, this slide is key. It visualizes the heart of the Agile Manifesto, and that document is the bedrock of this whole thing. The scale here shows that while all that stuff on the right, processes, docs, contracts, is important, Agile says we value the stuff on the left more. It's all about people talking, software that works, collaborating with your customer, and being able to pivot when you need to. Getting that distinction right, that's a classic exam question, for sure. So these 5 principles, they flow right out of those values we just talked about. You've got constant customer involvement, delivering software in small pieces to get feedback early, trusting the people doing the work, embracing change and keeping things simple. And look, these aren't just nice ideas or suggestions. In a real Agile shop, these principles guide every single decision that gets made. Okay, so that's the big idea, the philosophy. But how do you actually do it? Well, that brings us to Scrum, which is probably the most popular Agile framework you're ever going to hear about. Think of Scrum as the playbook. It gives you the rules, the roles, the events, basically the structure for making that Agile mindset a reality. The absolute heart of Scrum is something called a sprint. It's just a short, fixed period of time to get work done. And every single sprint follows this cycle of 4 key events, or ceremonies as they're sometimes called. You plan the work, you sync up every day, you show off what you built, and then you talk about how to get better next time. For your exam, you've got to know what each of these 4 meetings is for. They each have a very specific purpose. So, what's the fuel that powers these sprints? It's the user story. A really simple description of a feature from the perspective of the person who will use it. But what makes a user story good? How do you know if you've written a decent one? Well, the answer is the INVEST acronym. You absolutely 100% need to know this. So let's break it down. Okay, first up, I is for independent. A good user story can stand on its own. This is so important because it lets the team shuffle priorities around and work on things in pretty much any order without everything falling apart because of messy dependencies. Next, we've got N for negotiable. This is all about that core Agile value, right? Collaboration over contracts. A user story isn't set in stone. It's not a contract. It's the start of a conversation between the developers and the business to figure out the details together. V stands for valuable. This one's huge. Every single story has to deliver some kind of clear, obvious value to the person who's actually going to use the software or to the business itself. It makes everyone ask that critical question. Why are we even building this? If you can't answer that easily, maybe you shouldn't be building it. All right, next up is E for estimable. This just means the story has enough detail that the team can give a ballpark estimate on how much work it'll be. If the team looks at a story and says, "We have no idea how long this will take," that's a huge red flag. It means the story is too big or too fuzzy. Without this, you just can't plan your sprint. It's as simple as that. Then we have S for small. The whole point is to have a story that's small enough to be completely finished, designed, built, tested, everything, within one single sprint. This keeps things moving and gives the team that awesome feeling of getting things done. And we wrap up INVEST with T for testable. Every story needs clear, objective criteria that says, this is what done looks like. It's how you prove, without a shadow of a doubt, that the story is complete and actually works the way it's supposed to. No arguments, no ambiguity. All right, let's switch gears a bit and talk about our second major framework, Extreme Programming, or XP. Now, if you think of Scrum as the project management framework, XP is all about the deep down engineering practices. It's focused on technical excellence and building really high quality software. The goal of XP is actually pretty simple. Use a very specific set of engineering practices to build the best possible software, while still being able to roll with the punches when requirements change. So let's dig into what those practices are. So XP is famous for its 12 core practices. We'll go through the first 4 here. The planning game is just a collaborative way for the business and tech folks to plan together. Simple design means you build what you need for today, not what you might need a year from now. Test-driven development, or TDD. Now this one is a real mind-bender, is where you write a test that fails before you write a single line of code to make it pass. And a shared code standard just makes sure everybody's code looks the same, which makes it way easier to work with. Okay, the next set of 4 practices are all about collaboration and keeping the code healthy. Refactoring is like constantly tidying up your code to keep it clean and simple. Pair programming involves 2 developers, 1 keyboard, 1 screen. It sounds inefficient, but it's amazing for quality and for spreading knowledge around the team. Collective code ownership means anyone can change any part of the code, so the whole team owns it. And continuous integration means you're constantly merging and testing your code all day long to catch problems fast. And here are the final 4 practices, which really focus on the team and the customer. Small releases get software into the hands of real users as fast as possible. An on-site customer means you have a real customer expert sitting with the team every day to answer questions. The system metaphor is a simple, shared story that everyone uses to explain how the system works. And finally, sustainable pace is the super important idea that you work at a steady pace you can keep up forever. No death marches, no burnout. Okay, for our last section, we're going to connect Agile to the principles of Lean, which actually started in car manufacturing. The big idea here is taking lessons from super efficient factories and applying them to building software. It's all about maximizing the value for the customer by ruthlessly getting rid of anything that doesn't add value, what Lean calls waste. The absolute #1 rule of Lean is to find waste and get rid of it, and this quote nails the definition. But in software, what's waste? It's not just buggy code. It's anything the customer wouldn't be happy to pay for. Features nobody uses, time spent waiting for someone else, overly complicated processes, you name it. These 7 principles you see here are really the core of that lean, agile mindset. Some, like eliminate waste and deliver as fast as possible, are pretty obvious, but others are really interesting. Decide as late as possible sounds crazy, but it just means don't lock yourself into a decision until you absolutely have to. Amplify learning is all about getting fast feedback, and optimize the whole reminds you to look at the entire system, not just your little piece of it.
So let's bring this all home. What's the big takeaway for your exam? Agile isn't just one thing. It's a mindset, with frameworks like Scrum to manage the work and disciplines like XP to ensure quality. This question on the screen is actually a fantastic study tip. Don't just memorize the terms. Think about how they'd apply in the real world. If you can answer that, you don't just know the definitions, you actually understand Agile. All right, good luck on your exam.